Hiking has always been therapeutic for me. I love the crisp crunch of leaves under my feet, especially in the fall. About 2 years ago, one brisk October, I was hiking my favorite trail from Lake Superior to Pigeon River. I had planned to hike and set up camp somewhere near the river for a few days, just to clear my mind. I was an avid hiker, so my pack was securely on my back, full of just the essentials. My plan was to get up to the camping spot I had in mind by 2 p.m., so I had to settle in, get a fire going, and make something to eat before it got dark, since it was October and it was pretty much dark by 4 p.m. My buddy John was joining me the following day. I had just wanted one night on my own to enjoy nature and reset after a stressful week in court. Being an attorney isn't easy, especially the district attorney in a high-profile case. As I hiked, I recounted some of the key moments from trial the previous day and basked in the afterglow of winning a conviction. I made it to camp about 2:15, dropped John a pin to my location so he knew exactly where to find me the next day, and began setting up. I had gotten pretty good at setting up my one-man tent, so that took no time at all. I scoped out the surroundings for some good kindling and headed off to gather that and some wood to keep the fire going at least through the night. I was collecting as much as I could gather in my arms and was about to head back when I heard the distinct sound of leaves crunching behind me. I figured I was going to turn around and be face to face with a deer or bear, but as I turned around, I realized nothing was there. I looked down and there wasn't even a bunny rabbit or squirrel in sight. So I brushed it off as my mind playing tricks on me and took off. Later, it had gotten dark and I was sitting around the fire drinking some cocoa from my thermos, relaxing after a tough day of hiking, when I heard giggling. It sounded like two little boys playing. I grabbed my flashlight, even though I knew there was no way there was anyone out this far, let alone some children playing. I looked to the left where the giggling was coming from, and of course nothing was there. I started to wonder if my mind was just playing tricks on me, because I was alone in the woods in the middle of the night. I settled back into my chair, sure there were no children in need of assistance. The air was crisp. October up north is no joke, but this was just how I liked it. The fire was crackling and enveloping me in warmth as I gazed up at the night sky, appreciating the beauty and quiet. I began to doze off, just gazing at the night sky, when my phone buzzed and brought me back to reality. It was my wife checking to make sure I made it to camp safely and enjoyed my hot cocoa. When we hung up, I decided I better turn in for the night before I fell asleep sitting right there on the stool. I glanced at my phone. It was only 10 p.m., but I was physically and mentally exhausted from today. Before turning in, I threw a few more logs on the fire to make sure it wouldn't burn out through the night. Climbed in the tent and sunk into my sleeping bag. I was only in the tent about 5 minutes when I heard what sounded like footsteps outside it. Convinced I was just freaking myself out, I decided to throw one earbud in and listen to a podcast to help me drift off to sleep. I don't know how long I was asleep, but it felt like 10 minutes when I was woken up by a scream, an ear-piercing scream. I was certain someone was harming a woman very close to me. Frozen in fear, I knew I had to snap out of it and help. I threw my shoes back on, grabbed my fillet knife for protection, and sprung out of my tent, ready to defend myself and whoever this woman was who let out a scream. I heard another one. It was close. My heart was about to leap out of my chest. I was that scared. But my adrenaline was keeping me going. I wasn't quite sure what I was walking into, but I followed the sound of the screams. But then, just as quickly as that scream started, it stopped and left me in complete silence. Heart palpitating, breathing heavily, I began to weigh my options. Go into the pitch-black woods searching for what could be a fatal event, call the police and try to tell them how to get to me, or just retreat back into my tent because there was nothing I could do now. There were no more noises, not even footsteps on the leaves. I decided to continue searching for a few more minutes, knowing that if something had happened close to me, I had to help. But it became apparent to me after just a few minutes that there was no one around. I would hear something, even if something serious happened to a woman and she was now quieted. I would hear someone leaving or something, so I decided it would be best to retreat back to the tent. I can't call the police to report some screams I might have heard in the middle of the woods, I thought to myself. I'll have to search in the morning for any sign of a crime and call then. Still not entirely sure those screams weren't real, I tried to settle back down and sleep. But there was no sleep that night. I couldn't shake the feeling that I may have just inadvertently heard a crime being committed. The next day, my friend John arrived, and I filled him in on the night before. He went pale halfway through my story, but even worse towards the end. "Dude, you all right over there, John? You're white as a sheet," I said. John proceeded to tell me one of the most disturbing stories I've ever heard. "These woods are known for paranormal activity," he said. "About 15 years ago, somewhere along this trail, a family consisting of a mom, twin boys, a dad, and a dog were out here camping, an activity that they enjoyed doing as a family often. It is said that the husband went crazy one night after having a few too many drinks after dinner. He took the firewood axe and chased the wife around for nearly 10 minutes before catching her. Then he did the same with the boys, making them think it was a game. The mom and boys were found a week later after the husband was questioned heavily about returning from the trip alone. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. I believe to this day that what I heard that day was the spirits of the wife and twin boys, all trying to share their story. Well, friends, I don't know about you, but tonight's story is going to keep me up. If you have a paranormal story you would like read, email it to the address in the description below. Thanks for hanging with me. See you tomorrow, friends.